Clemson's offensive line is getting absolutely cooked in practice every day. And that's exactly why LSU should be worried. We'll talk about it right now, coming up on Locked On Clemson.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked On Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're new to the show, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're an everydayer, you know how we do it here on Locked On. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday, every single week. And in between episodes, don't forget to follow me over on X at The Morgan T Show, where we can talk about all things Clemson as much as you want. Today's episode, we're going to talk about Matt Luke and that offensive line, because I really feel like this could be a huge strength for Clemson in 2025. LSU is going to see a veteran offensive line in week one with guys who have played beside each other, only really losing one in Marcus Tate in the left guard position. The rest of the guys are returning, but the veteranness, the experience of the team, of that group, not the real story, in my opinion, right now in the preseason. The real story is that Clemson's defensive front has been absolutely punching and beating up that line and hitting them in the mouth ever since earlier this year. Iron sharpens iron, as you know they say, and the iron in this case is wearing orange. Matt Luke flat out said to us, it's all about who you practice against, and that determines how confident you can be, and that determines how well you can be ready for game speed. See, if you don't have the best facing up against the best, then you do have a little bit of negativity that creeps up into your mind saying, well, you know, I'm dominating this person, or I had a success against this person, but are they really that good? Are they really going to be, you know, anywhere compared to what I'm going to get in week one? And Clemson's offensive line does not have to worry about that. They know that they're going against guys that are going to be as good, or if not better, than literally everyone else that you're going to face against. And, you know, when I do my flight training, we always say, let's train to exceed the standard, because then when you get to your check ride, it's going to be a breeze. And that's what you need to do, is train to exceed the standard on the defensive side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball as well, in order to get ready and be even better than game speed when it comes that time on August 30th. You know, Matt Luke talked about and threw out names like Peter Woods, 5-star guy, high NFL draft pick guy, TJ Parker, high NFL draft guy, DeMonte Capehart, Will Helt. You know, these are the guys that are the daily matchups for the Clemson offensive line. Clemson only plays, you know, a certain amount of games, but they get to practice every day. You know, you only get that 1 hour time frame each week during the season. And you really, during the regular season, only get 12 of those games. At most, you're looking at 15. But in practice, day in and day out in the fall, starting in August, what are you going to get? You are going to get those guys every single day coming at you, which means that the proving grounds are not in Death Valley. The proving grounds are not in the away games in the stadium. They're truly at practice over there across the street. And, you know, that's where it really matters the most. Clemson's offensive line is going to walk into the stadium against their opponents in 2025, and they're going to be at an elite level game speed because of who they've been battling against and the caliber of opposition on the other side of the ball that they've been having to deal with since March. And that's why Clemson will not be shocked by LSU, will not be concerned by their pass rush or their run fits or their speed, the offensive line should have elite belief in themselves because of what they've been able to build in-house and what they've been able to go up against so far. I hear it in the comments from LSU fans. You're not going to be able to keep up with our guys. We have talent all over the board, and our speed and our skill and our talent is going to just make you look ridiculous. Some of these fans out there act like Clemson shouldn't even play the game. The game is already over. But I'm here to tell you that you feel as if on the LSU side of the ball, if you're in the bayou down there and you're thinking, well, my team's going up against the best. Well, I tell you right now, you got a lot of guys that are transfer portal guys. You don't really know what you're getting. You don't really know how well they're going to play against each other. Clemson's got guys that we know how good they are. We know how consistent they've been, and we know that they are the guys that they're familiar with because they've seen them to their left and to their right, and they've been there for a few years now. And it's not just some brand new transfer outside of one guy. We're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10 players, and you've got one transfer portal player versus LSU that's going to have 5 or 6 or 7 of those transfer portal players in their same group at this line of scrimmage. Speed of the game is important. Matt Luke said the game is played at, a certain kind of speed, and you have to be able to see that in practice. You don't want to do things where you do too much, where you get injured or face any of concerns like that. But you want to be able to go against guys who their natural level and their natural speed is that of, better than most players in the country. And even Peter Woods and TJ Parker at their second best or 80% would be better than a lot of teams at 100%. So every rep forces Clemson's tackles, Clemson's guards to match up against elite guys who are going to try to get around you, going to use elite moves, going to be a lot of very violent with their hands. This is the kind of stuff that normalizes chaos. The more that you can normalize what you are going to see when someone is in front of you that doesn't like you, it's not going to feel like something completely different. That Saturday game is going to feel like another Tuesday. And the more reps you get against that fire, that iron, builds that confidence, as Matt Luke talked about. Guys being put up against the fire, being put up against the best, they're coming off the practice field believing that they can hang. It's not fake confidence that you have going into the stadium, going into the Saturday game, or going on an away game. You cannot take fake confidence to you on an away game. And if LSU comes into Memorial Stadium with some fake confidence, with some doubts about what they've been practicing against in August, it's going to be a big problem for them. You either have proof that you can do it, or you have doubts that you cannot. And I believe that Clemson is going to have proof and repetitions that are consistent with what they can do to get not only to the ACC championship game, to get not only past this first game of the season, but also get into the playoffs for 2025. I'm loving what Matt Luke's saying. He mentioned too about scheme and communication and understanding pressure packages and how to communicate better when there are different kind of twists and wrinkles and late stems that happen where the defense throws these things in there. Under a very veteran coach like Matt Luke and Tom Allen, Luke talked about how they're getting better with their in-game language communication, and with the tight ends as well. When it gets loud, even at Clemson when it gets loud, but when it gets loud in an away game, shared communication, shared vocabulary, being on the same page is going to matter a ton, and it's just going to get better. If they can build it now, it's going to continue to get better and better as the season goes on. Fans should be confident that the offensive line has built up to a point to where we may see the best offensive line we've seen since the years of John Simpson. Clemson having an offensive line that's one of the best in the ACC is what we all want to see again. And I think that Matt Luke is doing the right things. Next up, we're going to talk about depth, and depth, not just a buzzword, but it is the ability to make every single player out there sweat, whether they're in front of you or next to you as well, because of that depth. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. A couple weekends ago, my friend was watching the Braves, grilling outside, deciding to throw in a same game parlay over on the FanDuel app. Braves money line, one extra base hit from Riley, 7 strikeouts from the starting pitcher of the night. Took about 30 seconds to build. Odds popped up right away. He could look and see what exactly he wanted to do. Suddenly, every single part of the game mattered a little bit more. When he cashed in, man, the payout hit his account immediately within just a few seconds. And the game felt like a victory lap, not just for the Braves, but for him as well. Even a regular season matchup can be turned into something that you can't turn away from. Go check out FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open up the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Clemson's offensive line is going up against the best. You know, we talked about that. They're going to be week 1 ready by the end of fall camp. I truly believe that. But also, Matt Luke talked about how depth is not just for inner injuries. Depth means more pressure, more depth, more pressure. Not just 5 guys. I'm talking 8, 9 guys. Maulers that you can send out there and really attack the defense. He wants depth, not just in case the worst happens, but he wants depth because it will scare not just the opposing defense, but scare the starters into being better than they were, reaching another level than they felt like they had. Matt Luke kept saying competition more than depth. He wants 8 or 9 guys that he can absolutely trust to go out there at any part of the game. But the number is less important than the daily threat. Have a bad day? That's a daily threat now. Someone takes your spot. And that's how he wants fall camp to be like. He wants that competition. He wants that depth. We talked about it with Cade Klubnik. When Cade and Christopher Vezina Chris CV wasn't really pushing him. You know, it seemed like Cade struggled a little bit, but as Christopher Vezina is getting better and pushing him a little more in practice and having that competition, Cade is getting better as well. Same thing with Trent Pierman. The backup quarterbacks getting better are helping Cade get better. The same thing with the offensive line. Those guys that are not necessarily the sold-in starters that we're expecting to see out there at the very beginning, those guys are helping the other guys build up and, you know, kind of give them a little bit of concern and worry. You know, you need a little bit of anxiety to keep yourself in check. Someone could take your spot if you're not doing the right thing. And also, I like it from the Matt Luke standpoint of, I'm not guaranteeing you anything. You earn your starting position, whether you're the left tackle, the center, the guard, whatever it may be, you have to earn it, and you have to earn it every single day. Clemson's offensive line will be better because a coach is doing this, because Matt Luke is holding them accountable to this level. November, you can't get through November, which is going to be difficult for Clemson to win all of those games. You can't get to December and then ultimately into January unless you have the depth that can get you there. You know, nobody being able to coast in August means they're going to be ready in September, late August for LSU, but September for the beginning of the season. And then they're going to be hardened and rotated in and well equipped for November to keep it going and then into the playoffs as well. A little bit of depth never hurt your culture. And it's not just depth because of injury. Like I said, it's depth because of pressure, depth because of a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear in a good way. Sharpens them up, lets them know, hey, I need to be on my best game. Same thing with the internal forces. You've got Walker Parks, Tristan Lee. They're the guys that you would think, oh, you know what? They are going to be the starters no matter what. No, Matt Luke said that's not the case. Walker Parks cannot be protected from challenges. Tristan Lee cannot be protected from challenges, because if you protect them, then they coast. Then they're not ready for August 30th. They're not ready for the entire season. And you have failed them as a coach. That's why Braden Jacobs, Elijah Thurman, Colin Sadler, Harris Sewell, those guys are told from the very beginning, get out there and push those guys to be better. Push those guys, not only push for you to kind of get a starting position, but if you're not getting the starting position, you need to keep pushing and forcing those guys to prove that you don't deserve it, right? So the room to be able to have that kind of friendly competition and to say, hey, you know what? I'm coming for your job. That's important for the offensive line. Clemson, we've heard it a lot. I know what you're going to tell me in the comments, but Morg, this is how it goes. You tell me this at the beginning of the season for 8 years now. And you're right. For 8 years, I've bought into the Dabo Swinney sayings of that we've got, 15 different offensive linemen that we trust, and we're going to rotate and blah, blah, blah. And then the season comes and you realize they maybe have 6, maybe. Could Matt Luke be tricking me again? Could he be pulling one over on me one more time? And it's not Dabo this time, but it'd be Matt Luke. Maybe he's doing that. Maybe it's a nothing but coach speak. Maybe that's the case, but I don't believe that, because we've heard and seen Braden Jacobs in the spring. We know what Elijah Thurman can do. We've seen them on the football field. We know what Harris Sewell and Colin Sadler can do when they're healthy. We know what they can do. Can they take it to the next level? I've seen these guys from when they were high school guys. If you follow recruiting, you know these guys have talent. You know that they can push and make those guys that are the, heir apparent starters sweat a little bit. Sweat equity, fear equity, that's going to make the offensive line just that much better. And I really like versatility from Colin Sadler. Colin Sadler's been a guy I've been following for years. I haven't heard from his dad. Mr. Sadler, if you're out there, give me a shout over on X. I hadn't heard from him in a couple of years, but when he was a recruit, I watched film of him, and he's got what it takes. He really does to be a starter at Clemson. He can play 4 different positions for Clemson. Harris Sewell as well can slide from guard to center. Those guys and their ability and their talent and their openness to cross-train will make it harder for injuries to hurt you as much, but also harder for anyone to hide behind the fact that they are just the starter and that's what they deserve, because these guys will rotate in and try to beat you out. If they can't make it at left tackle, well, they're going to try left guard. They can't make left guard, they're going to try to right guard. These are the guys that they don't need one specific position. They're going to come in and they're going to try to play. And if you can't, or you have a couple of off days, like Matt Luke said, we'll try you anywhere. We'll get you in there, and nothing is guaranteed. Now, going back to the injury part, yes, it is a long season. I know he said it's not really all about that, but injuries will happen in football. I mean, that's just the way it happens. Now, hopefully it's not anything serious. It's not anything long-term, but an injury is inevitable to someone, no matter how small it may be. You need guys that you can plug and play in. You need that versatility. You need that insurance so that you're not completely reshuffling an offensive line. And I think Matt Luke has it right, the way that he's building it. Clemson having this continuity, having this versatility, having the guys and having a coach that believes in pushing guys, not just giving opportunities, I think is really good. Now, you don't want too much rotation. I get it. You don't want to kill cohesion by over rotating. You don't want to kill rhythm by over-rotating, and Matt Luke understands that as well. But fall camp is where you build these kind of things. As he mentions, year in and year out, it's not 5 pennies, it's 1 nickel. They have to figure out how they can be one complete unit, and competition is really the first step to building that complete unit so that it is just not your starters and then no one else. Dabo's best offensive lines have had a great mix of veterans, but also some young guys coming in. And also their offensive lines have been the best when they're facing the best competition. And we're seeing that now in 2025 as well. Fans should be excited. I know you love Matt Luke already. I don't have to stump for him at all. You already believe in Matt Luke, but fans should be excited because this is possibly the year where we can really believe in the fact that Clemson has more than just 5 offensive linemen to rotate in. All right, I'm going to wrap up the show with the final segment. If you're an everydayer, I know you're still with me. Thank you so much. If you're new and you're still with me, well, hey, maybe you yourself are turning into an everydayer. Look at yourself now. Look in the mirror. Maybe you are turning into a Locked On Clemson everydayer if you're here for the third segment. But for those marathoners out there, we'll get into segment 3 with Ryan Linthicum. Ryan Linthicum, from what we're hearing from Matt Luke, is already running the show in his head. He's got that general type of mentality. He's got that mentality you need to be a really good center. That guy that's thinking in the sense of almost being the quarterback. You've seen it with the Philadelphia Eagles and Jason Kelsey. You've seen it with him. And when certain things that he does, it's like, man, is he the quarterback? Because he seems to be leading the team. Ryan Linthicum has that in his head. We are being told that he understands the game at a level of a quarterback. But now Matt Luke is challenging him to finish people off in front with his hands, not just with his mind. Ryan Linthicum, very cerebral, he said, praised his confidence this offseason, praised his work ethic, his communication skills. But then he kind of abruptly pivoted on us. And he said, all that's well and good, but you can't keep it in between the ears. It is a physical game. It's not a game of chess. You can't keep it in your mind the entire time. And even chess, you have to actually make the moves with the pieces. And it's the same thing for Ryan Linthicum. You can't know everything you want to do in your head, but then do the wrong things with your hands, with your body. And I feel the same way when you're flying. You can know all the checklists, you can know all the flows, you can understand all the physics of it. But at the end of the day, you got to use your hands and your feel to fly that plane correctly and to land that plane correctly. Same thing for Ryan Linthicum. He's got to be able to take what's in between his ears and move it to his hands. Being more physical, finishing blocks off, challenging the body in front of him. Also, Matt Luke mentioned that he needed to challenge his own body. Nutrition really hasn't been where it needed to be over the years, but this offseason, nutrition has been number 1 for Ryan. Number 1, also number 2, 1A, I guess, 1B would be body composition. They're really trying to let him or focus him on being exactly where he needs to be, taking all that talent in his head, in his mind, and that skill and that knowledge, that God-given knowledge that he has, and turn it into something that is a physical beast to deal with. If Ryan Linthicum can do this, if he can get this kind of nastiness out, he's already elite at processing things from what we're hearing from the coaches. The inside run game will become an identity that honestly has been lacking. Even with Phil Maffa, when you look back, how strong was Clemson at running straight up the middle? I mean, more often than not, I know if you were sitting next to me, you were pretty frustrated, as was I, and you and I were both kind of feeling it, where it's like, why do we keep running right into the back of our center or right into the back of our right guard? And what we're hearing is a little bit about the fact that the center in Ryan Linthicum is just not able to transition that mind into that body. Centers need to be able to think at a high level. They need to be able to be an elite processor. But centers that can also think and finish, those are the ones that get drafted high in the NFL. Those are the ones that have long careers on Sunday. Those are the guys that have their names cemented on Saturdays and that are crucial to those inside run games. If the inside run is struggling this season, then it's because there's a disconnect here in what we're having with the middle of the line in Ryan Linthicum. And Matt Luke is doing what he can now to make sure that those errors and mistakes don't happen in 2025. Now, he gave me he said 3 points that I wrote down. One is that Ryan Linthicum needs and has been rebuilding his body. He looks totally different from when he first met him. They've been really working on his nutrition, and it's not just cosmetic. They've been dumping that lower body fat. They've been exchanging it for strength and building weight, but good weight, that lean weight that you need, not the fat, baby fat weight that type of weight translates into more leverage, not pulling you down and anchoring you, and more weight as far as gravity, but more leverage as far as muscle mass. That will help you win battles. That will help you anchor on bull rushes, and that will help Clemson ultimately have a better inside run. Communication with the violence. That's another thing I wrote down that Matt Luke told me, is that a center must be able to direct traffic, but he must also be able to win with his hands and be violent. Better blocking, better finishing, get it all the way to the very end. Not just what you think in your mind, but being confident to take what's in your head and move it out. Again, as I mentioned in the last segment, pressure is key too, because Linthicum hasn't really felt a lot of pressure from behind as a backup. Matt Luke said that Harris Sewell is a guy who they've been entering in as a backup center and has been putting in more pressure, has been really trying to help Ryan not only try to get his own starting position, but help Ryan become a better center himself. Iron sharpens iron in this case when they're on the same group. If Ryan has a couple of bad days in the fall, we may see Harris Sewell step in, and that's okay. Matt Luke wants that, and that's what we want as well. We want competition that matters. Centers will be able, an elite center is going to set the tone for an offense. They're going to set the tempo. They're going to set the protections, help with the checkdowns and the adjustments. Has Clemson been able to upgrade without using the transfer portal yet again? Well, that's their MO, right? That's their SOPs. Dabo is all about developing from within. If you're slacking off or you're not meeting expectations, then you're going to be held accountable, but not to a point where they lose faith in you and they stop developing you. Clemson and Dabo always take it back to how can they develop you better? How can they coach you better? How can they motivate you better to get to your ultimate highest peak on the pyramid? The stronger a Clemson center will be in Ryan Linthicum, if he truly can be a 2.0 Ryan Linthicum, I feel bad for LSU. I feel bad for LSU overall because they're coming at us with a lot of talk about all these new players. Clemson, on the other hand, is developing and building the guys they already have into the best possible version of themselves. And that, along with the cohesion of these guys been playing together for years now, could be huge for Clemson's start to the season in beating LSU and then rolling the rest of the season. That's why this all matters. That's why I love talking to Matt Luke, because If you can get mentality like this, if you can get development like this on your offensive line, we could see one of the best offensive lines Clemson has ever had. All right. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, hey, that's the end of the show. I'll see you tomorrow, but I'll see you at the top of the hill.